Welcome! We're so glad you're interested to deepen your faith journey with us at OAC. As you learn about this church and what we hope to accomplish as we partner with God, our prayer is that you'll be inspired and motivated to join us. Oak Ridge is a diverse, growing community of people just like you who are learning to follow Jesus more closely. We are not perfect, but we are committed to living, loving, and growing together. This session is supposed to help you discover the heart of OAC, and our desire is to see your life changed by the power of Jesus' love. The pathway to membership is more descriptive than prescriptive. Deciding on membership is kind of like taking on a family name. You're choosing to be an ambassador and representative of OAC. You're considering moving from the crowd to our community and congregation. And who knows, your commitment may even guide your growth to become one of our core leaders, just like the folks you'll meet in this video. They are going to give you a quick overview of OAC's member expectations, but there's no obligation or high pressure tactic to join at the end. You're free to decide if this church is a fit for you or not. I'm always going to encourage you to go where you can grow. But if you track with us and you hold in high regard the Great Commandment and Great Commission to love the Lord your God with all your heart and to love your neighbor as yourself, and then to make disciples of all nations, baptizing them and sharing with them the teachings that Jesus commanded, we would love to have you be part of us.
God has been leading OAC on an amazing journey through its history. Our church was built in 1965, and like most Christian churches in North America, it experienced periods of growth and decline during its 55-year history. But recognizing its declining and unhealthy condition in 1999, church leaders began prayerfully taking intentional steps towards renewal. Leaders asked a hard question. If our church were to close next month, would our neighbors even notice that we were gone? Recognizing the answer to that was no. By God's grace, though, through a 7-year transition period, OAC has emerged in 2007 with a renewed vision and passion. Some of the areas we addressed and that make us unique are we changed our name from Vancouver Central to Oak Ridge Adventist Church. We wanted a name that identified us with our neighborhood. We wanted to become a community church and not just a commuter church with the goal of meeting the needs of our local neighbors. The OAC board and leaders chose to make evangelism the very heart and DNA of the church. For us, that meant that evangelism was no longer viewed as an event at OAC, but rather as a natural process of church life. Every activity and program became an evangelistic opportunity. We also began staffing for growth. That meant that we hired and locally funded a worship pastor, an office manager, a children's ministry pastor, a communications professional, and an associate pastor. We believe that volunteers are at the core of a thriving church, but paid staff can help sustain consistent ministry to an even more intentional level. We also changed our board structure from a traditional model to a more relevant governance style, similar to nonprofit boards in our community. And then most recently, we engaged in a feasibility study to more fully understand how OAC can better serve our evolving new community, since the City of Vancouver's intention to now redevelop Oak Ridge and the Cambie Corridor, and this area is becoming the second most densely populated center outside of the West End. OAC is going to have 5,000 new residents within a 1-mile-kilometer radius of the church, and we want to be better able to serve each one of those individuals with our ministries. As a faith community, we believe that church membership should be an intentional choice. We encourage that as you consider joining OAC, that you will commit, number 1, to a lifelong love relationship with Jesus. Number 2, to growing daily in your own personal faith journey. Number 3, to serving one another in love, building up and supporting the church. For us, that even includes supporting leadership, refusing to be involved in gossip, and to praying for the church daily. Paul says it best in Romans 14:19. Let us concentrate on the things which make for harmony and on the growth of our fellowship together. Number 4 is sharing God's story. That is, living a life that demonstrates God's grace in our own lives and being willing to tell others of His goodness. As a church, we have spent considerable time reviewing through the years and refining our vision and mission. And we invite people to join OAC if they share in that same dream for being a part of a relevant, vibrant faith community. Our vision at OAC is to become a welcoming community where the transformative love of Jesus is experienced freely by all. Our mission is to invite, to include, to involve. We boldly invite people on a journey toward an abundant life in Jesus. We will warmly include all people by extending God's love and grace, and we will intentionally involve people in serving just as Jesus did.
As a God-led organization, the way our church is set up is driven by our values. These core values shape how we do ministry. Let us take a look at these values. 1. Unity with diversity. We believe that God calls us to embrace diversity, accepting and encouraging each other in love. 2. Community. We believe that Jesus intended for us to do life together, supporting each other along the journey. 3. Worship. We believe that in coming to know Jesus, we will understand the Father's heart and joyfully worship Him. 4. Future focused. We believe that the vibrancy and health of our church is nurtured by valuing and empowering younger generations. And 5. Service. We believe in generously putting the needs of others first and prioritizing newcomers and the most vulnerable. Our leadership, ministries, and service all reflect these values. Let's take a look at our church organization. OAC is organized into the board, which is the constituted authority responsible for prudent oversight of the church's operations. We have an elders board for spiritual support to the pastoral staff and care to all members. We have committees, and the committees are divided into standing committees and ad hoc committees. Standing committees like the facility and finance. We also have our members and our volunteers, our finances. At OAC, there are 2 major areas of giving. Most members contribute to tithes and local church budgets. Tithes comes from the biblical instruction to return 1/10 of your increase to God. Leviticus 27:30 tells us that 1/10 of all you produce is the Lord's and it is holy. In the biblical worldview, we understand we are not true owners of our possessions, but merely managers and stewards of what God has gifted or entrusted us with. The Adventist Church policy directs all tithes to the local conference, since the pastors and conference workers are paid from tithes. That way, even small churches have pastoral support, whether they can directly afford it or not. Tithe dollars also fund the conference activities, and they roll up to our union, division, and the general conference offices. Tithe also pays part of the salary of teachers in Adventist schools. For example, our constituent school, Deer Lake, gets 3% of its funding from the BC Conference. All giving marked as tithe goes to the BC Conference. OAC does not keep any money earmarked as tithes. The local church budgets. All of OAC's expenses, the cost of facility, upkeep, locally hired staff, members, and items like worship music licenses, materials for ministry, kids curriculum, all supplies related to our operation are provided by contributions to local church budgets. OAC also supports Deer Lake School from its annual budgets. The recommended portion of income to be given to your local church is 5%. The Bible reminds us that God loves a cheerful giver, and we invite all our members to partner and trust God with their whole being, including their finances.
The best way to get to know OAC is to get involved and volunteer with us. We regularly host neighborhood events and serve the community with an on-site community garden, blood donor promotion, hygiene kit prep as just a few examples. You do not need to be a member to volunteer with most ministry teams. But if you are tech savvy, you might be able to help our live stream or media teams. If you are an extrovert, you might enjoy serving in our welcome team. God has uniquely shaped all of us, and we need each other's skills and wisdom to build a stronger community. Our ultimate role model is Jesus, who demonstrated he had a servant heart. From Philippians chapter 2, verse 6. Though he was by nature God, he did not consider equality with God something to possess, but he emptied himself by taking the nature of a servant. I have been an active volunteer long before I even became a member of OAC. I started with the hospitality ministry, welcoming members and guests during Sabbath service, helping out with potluck lunches, doing food bank sorting, and some community outreach and events. I prayed for where I can particularly devote my time and which I love to do, and discovered the hospitality ministry. I gained confidence and enjoyed immensely the fellowship with other members who later on became deep friendships. I grew in my faith and felt really closer to God, and I'm so glad I did. You'll discover satisfaction and joy when you make small sacrifices for the benefit of others. If you want to help out explore a new interest or skill, don't wait. Let us know what the Holy Spirit is inspiring you to do. Serve one another with the particular gifts God has given each of you. 1 Peter 4:10.
I came to Vancouver about 5 years ago and was looking for a church, kind of church hopping, jumping around. And yeah, there was a different feeling when I came to OAC. The first thing I noticed was the music, but more than just the song selection or anything like that was the passion behind it. Not just the music on stage, but the music of the congregation. The next thing I noticed was how intergenerational it is. I mean, as a millennial, you would think what I want is just young people, but it's actually so refreshing to not just have just old people, just young people, just this generation, or just families, but a mixture of all of them. And instead of butting heads, it just felt like everyone was in unison, working together and praising together. So that was kind of the first thing that really stuck out for me when I came to this church. I would say the church has played a vital role in my journey, just in the sense of keeping me in an area where loving God and asking questions about God is not only accepted, but encouraged. And also through this church in particular, finding people that I would describe as giants of faith, people that I can look to for mentorship and inspiration on my own journey. And I mean, who doesn't want just a congregation where you can all come together and enjoy the same thing? I chose membership for a couple of reasons. I mean, you don't need to be a member to come to this church. You don't even need to be a member to be involved in it. But it kind of I looked at it more as this was what I was already doing. This was already my church. So why not make it official? And I did want to take on a more active behind the scenes role with administration, which was a part of that decision as well. Since becoming a member, I do feel like I have a perspective change just in and of myself, being able to see kind of the behind the scenes and also the dedication from the leaders. I feel like my voice maybe carries more weight or more intentionality behind it, both on my side, but also for others, seeing that I am committed for the long run. I'm super excited to see what happens with OAC and the direction we go. I know we have a very strong base and core set of values, and it just continuing to learn and grow and expand on that and finding other ways to reach our community here. For anyone questioning if membership is for them or kind of on the fence, I totally get it. My thought is don't rush into it. That's definitely something that should be prayed about. And don't do it just because other people are doing it or anything like that. That being said, I do think having a home base, having a church to call your own is a perspective shift and a change in your dedication and comfort in that area. The other thing too is it's not permanent. If you don't like it, just unmembership. We'll be okay.
So, what are your next steps? You're gonna meet our leaders and be able to ask your questions in a face-to-face or online meeting. If you are new to Christianity, maybe your next step is to study for baptism. If you're already a Christian but new to Adventism, your next step might be a profession of faith. And if you're already a Seventh-day Adventist, you might consider transferring your membership from your home church here. Whatever your next step might be, we encourage you to stay connected and communicate with us. We want to support you in your journey, whatever that choice might be. And we'd love for you to get to know us even better by staying connected through our communication channels. Visit our website at oacvancouver.ca. It's frequently updated with events and information. You can also subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter right from the home page, or track with us on social media. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Hope to see you around soon.